All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're breaking down a major shakeup in U.S. cybersecurity that's unfolding right now. We're talking about a system that's been in place for 2 decades, and it's being completely upended, creating brand new risks for everyone, from state governments all the way down to your local election offices. So, this is the headline that got everyone talking. And here's the deal. As of September 30th, 2025, 2 foundational pillars of our national cyber defense are essentially getting knocked down at the exact same time. It's a real 1-2 punch that has experts seriously concerned. So, what exactly is this double blow? Well, you've got a critical partnership that's just ending, and on that very same day, a foundational law that underpins a lot of this work is set to expire. Now, these 2 things are technically separate, but their combined impact, it's creating what you could call a perfect storm for America's cyber defenses. Okay, before we go any further, we have to clear something up because it gets pretty confusing. We're going to be talking about 2 CISAs, and they are totally different things. On the left, you've got CISA, the agency. That's the government body, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. They're the ones who fund programs. On the right, you have CISA, the Act. That's a law from 2015 that encourages information sharing. Got it? Agency on the left, Act on the right. Both are central to the story. So let's talk about that first blow. CISA, that's the agency, remember, has pulled its funding from a nonprofit called the Center for Internet Security, or CIS. And this wasn't some new agreement. This partnership has been the bedrock of how cyber threat intelligence was shared with state and local governments for 20 years. And we are not talking about a small amount of cash here. CIS says it has lost a whopping $27 million a year. That federal money was literally what allowed CIS to provide its critical services for free to states, local governments, tribal and territorial governments all across the country. And then, as if that wasn't enough, on the exact same day, the second blow lands. The CISA Act of 2015 is just expiring. This is the law that created the legal safety net for private companies to report cyber threats they were seeing to the government without having to worry about getting sued. Its expiration, it creates a huge legal vacuum. So, how in the world did we get here? This timeline really lays it out. You can see how this system of cooperation, which started way back in 2003 with this free threat sharing network, has been taken apart piece by piece really rapidly just this year. First, the funding for election security was cut. And now, the main funding agreement and that cornerstone law are both ending simultaneously. Okay, so you might be thinking, why is this such a big deal? Well, it all boils down to the power of sharing information, and this fascinating idea that experts call the whole animal problem. Right, so that program that lost its funding, the Multi-State ISAC, or MS-ISAC, it was an absolutely critical hub. The best way to think of it is like a nationwide neighborhood watch for cyber attacks. It collected all these threat reports from all over the country, and then shared warnings and solutions back out to local governments, all for free thanks to that federal funding. And this quote from an attorney, Andrew Grusso, just perfectly captures the problem. He says, "You might have the legs and the tail, but you haven't got the whole animal." What does he mean by that? Well, think about it. A single city in Oregon or a county in Florida might only see one tiny piece of a massive attack. They just see the tail or maybe the legs. And that is why sharing is so important. By putting all those little pieces together, the leg from one state, the tail from another, defenders can finally see the whole animal. They can connect the dots, identify a widespread coordinated attack, and actually build a proactive defense instead of just reacting to what's in front of them. And this is where that other CISA, the Act, was so crucial. It basically gave companies a legal green light. It said, hey, you can share this threat data with us, and you don't have to worry about getting sued for it. That protection was essential for encouraging the kind of sharing you need to see that whole animal. So now we get to the big question, what happens now? The funding is gone, the legal protection is gone. What does this future in limbo, actually look like? Well, for the folks on the ground, the state and local cyber defenders, their world basically changed overnight. That service from the MS-ISAC that was always there, always free, now there's a price tag on it. And local governments, they're already running on tight budgets, so now they have to find the money for something that used to be a given. And this quote from an elections expert, Tina Barton, just hits it home. This isn't about abstract data points on a screen. It's about a very real, practical problem. If Oregon sees an attack unfolding, how do they warn Michigan in time? How does that communication happen now? Which leads us to this massive question mark. Without that central hub and without that legal protection, how does critical info get shared fast enough? Experts are really worried about this period of limbo creating a chilling effect, where companies might hesitate to share vital information precisely when it's needed most. So, what we're left with are these two giant vacuums. On one side, you've got the funding vacuum. That's a communication problem. It threatens to disconnect the states. On the other side, you have the legal vacuum. That's a reporting problem. It could scare companies into silence. But both lead to the same dangerous place, an incomplete view of the threats facing the country. And at the end of the day, this really isn't about politics. As this quote says, cybersecurity does not care about political lines. Hackers don't care if a target is in a red state or a blue state. They target our infrastructure, our businesses, our data. Our defenses can't afford to be divided either. And that's what we're left with. It's a really powerful question to think about. At a time when digital threats from all over the globe are getting more complex, more sophisticated every single day, the US has effectively just dismantled a system that's been working for 2 decades. The big question is, what's going to take its place?